Before we get into the story, leave a comment and let us know what city you're watching from. And don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10 at the end. Enjoy the story. The conference room on the 42nd floor of Sterling Enterprises gleamed under the afternoon sun, glass walls reflecting the sprawling city below. Olivia Bennett sat at the long mahogany table, her fingers flying across her laptop keyboard as she finalized the quarterly report. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and her navy blazer hung over the back of her chair. She'd been working at Sterling Enterprises for 2 years now, climbing from junior analyst to senior financial consultant, and she was proud of every sleepless night that had gotten her here. Bennett, my office. Now. The voice cut through the quiet hum of the workspace like a blade. Olivia's head snapped up. Alexander Sterling stood in the doorway of his glass-walled office, his steel-gray eyes fixed on her with that expression she'd come to recognize. Impatient, demanding, impossible to refuse. She grabbed her tablet and hurried across the floor, her heels clicking against the polished marble. Alexander Sterling was 34, 6 feet 2 inches of perfectly tailored suits and cold efficiency. The youngest CEO in the company's history, he'd taken over after his father's retirement and had tripled profits in 3 years. He was also, if Olivia was being honest with herself, the most frustratingly attractive man she'd ever worked for. "Close the door," he said, without looking up from the financial projections spread across his desk. Olivia obeyed, her pulse quickening. Being alone with Alexander always felt like standing too close to a live wire. "The Whitmore deal," he said, his voice clipped. "Walk me through the risk assessment again." Olivia pulled up the file on her tablet, forcing herself to focus on the numbers instead of the way his jaw tightened when he was concentrating. "Based on their last 3 quarters, there's a 14% volatility risk, but the projected ROI over 5 years is substantial. I'd recommend proceeding with a tiered investment structure to minimize exposure." Alexander leaned back in his chair, studying her. For a moment, Olivia felt like a specimen under a microscope. Then he nodded. "Good. Send me the revised proposal by tonight." "And Bennett?" He paused, and something flickered in those cold eyes. "You're the only analyst in this company who doesn't waste my time with incompetence. Don't change that." It wasn't exactly a compliment, but coming from Alexander Sterling, it was practically a declaration of affection. Olivia felt her cheeks warm. "Yes, sir. And stop calling me sir. It makes me feel like my father." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile, and Olivia's heart did something complicated in her chest. She was halfway back to her desk when her phone buzzed. A company-wide email. Annual holiday party. This Friday at the Sterling Grand Hotel. Attendance strongly encouraged. Olivia sighed. She hated these events. Small talk with colleagues who barely knew her name, forced smiles, and the inevitable awkwardness of standing alone by the refreshment table while everyone else networked in tight circles. But strongly encouraged at Sterling Enterprises meant mandatory. That night, sitting in her small studio apartment with leftover Chinese food and her laptop, Olivia tried to finish the Whitmore proposal. But her mind kept drifting back to Alexander's almost smile. She shook her head, annoyed with herself. "He's your boss, Bennett. A cold, demanding, impossible boss who probably doesn't even know your favorite coffee order." Except he did. Last Tuesday, he'd had his assistant bring her a cappuccino with extra foam, exactly the way she liked it. When she'd thanked him, he'd merely shrugged and said, "You work better caffeinated." Olivia groaned and buried her face in her hands. This was ridiculous. She was a professional. She had career goals, ambitions, a 5-year plan that definitely did not include developing feelings for her emotionally unavailable billionaire boss. Friday arrived too quickly. Olivia stood in front of her closet, staring at the limited options. Finally, she chose a simple black dress that was elegant, but not too formal, paired with heels that made her legs look longer than they were. She told herself she wasn't trying to impress anyone. The mirror disagreed. The Sterling Grand Hotel was a monument to luxury. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, and the ballroom glittered with gold and white decorations. A live band played soft jazz, and waiters in crisp white jackets circulated with trays of champagne. Olivia accepted a glass and tried to blend into the background. "Olivia!" "You made it." Jessica from accounting appeared at her elbow, already on her third glass of wine, judging by the flush in her cheeks. "Isn't this amazing? I heard Mr. Sterling spared no expense this year." "It's lovely," Olivia agreed, scanning the room. She spotted Alexander near the bar, surrounded by senior executives. He looked bored, his expression carved from ice, as he listened to whatever story was being told. Their eyes met across the room, and for a heartbeat, Olivia forgot how to breathe. Then someone blocked her view, and the moment shattered. The evening dragged on. Olivia made polite conversation with colleagues, laughed at jokes that weren't funny, and counted the minutes until she could leave without seeming rude. She was considering an escape when the lights dimmed slightly, and the band shifted to a slower tempo. "Enjoying yourself?" The voice came from directly behind her, low and familiar. Olivia turned, expecting to find Alexander, but something was different. He looked exactly the same sharp features, same steel gray eyes, same perfectly tailored suit. But there was a warmth in his expression she'd never seen before, a playful curve to his lips. "Mr. Sterling, I didn't realize you'd left the executives' corner," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. He laughed, a real laugh, not the cold chuckle she'd heard once or twice in the office. "Guilty as charged. I've been told I need to mingle more." "Dance with me?" Olivia blinked. Alexander Sterling did not dance. She'd heard the other assistants joke about it. And yet, here he was, extending his hand, his eyes warm and inviting. Maybe he'd had a few drinks. Maybe the holiday spirit had infected even the Ice King. "I should probably warn you. I'm terrible at dancing," she said. But she was already placing her hand in his. "Then we'll be terrible together," he said, and led her onto the floor. His hand settled on her waist, warm even through the fabric of her dress, and Olivia's breath caught. This close, she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that made her dizzy. They moved together, and she was surprised by how natural it felt. Alexander, or this strange, smiling version of Alexander, was an excellent dancer. "You're full of surprises tonight, Mr. Sterling," Olivia said, trying to sound casual even though her heart was racing. "Am I?" He spun her gently, his eyes never leaving hers. "Maybe you just don't know me as well as you think you do." There was something playful in his tone, almost teasing. Olivia had never heard Alexander tease anyone. He barked orders, he critiqued work, he occasionally offered grudging praise, but he didn't tease. "I'm starting to think you're right," she admitted. The music swelled, and he pulled her closer. Olivia could feel the solid warmth of his chest, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Around them, other couples danced, but Olivia barely noticed. The room had narrowed to just the two of them. "Can I tell you a secret?" he murmured, his lips close to her ear. Olivia's pulse stuttered. "What kind of secret?" "I've wanted to do this for a long time." His hand tightened slightly on her waist. "Dance with you. Talk to you without a desk between us. See that smile you hide behind all those spreadsheets." Olivia pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "You're definitely not acting like yourself tonight." "Maybe I'm tired of acting," he said softly. Then, before Olivia could process what was happening, he was leaning in. His hand came up to cup her cheek, gentle and sure, and then his lips were on hers. The kiss was soft, tentative, asking permission rather than demanding. Olivia's eyes fluttered closed. Her hand came up instinctively to rest against his chest, and she kissed him back. For a few perfect seconds, nothing else existed. Not the party, not the watching eyes, not her career or her 5-year plan. Just this, just him, just the way her entire body seemed to light up under his touch. When they broke apart, Olivia was breathless. "Mr. Sterling, Olivia." His voice was rough, strained, but it wasn't coming from the man in front of her. Olivia's head whipped around. Alexander Sterling stood 3 feet away, his face a mask of shock and something that looked almost like betrayal. His steel-gray eyes were locked on her, wide and stunned. Olivia's brain stuttered. She looked back at the man she'd just kissed, really looked at him, and her stomach dropped. Same face, same build, same eyes. But now that she was paying attention, there were subtle differences. A lighter energy, a warmer smile, and he was wearing a slightly different suit jacket, navy instead of charcoal. "Oh my God," Olivia whispered. Her hand flew to her mouth. The man she'd kissed grinned, utterly unrepentant. "Surprise?" "Lucas," Alexander said, and his voice was pure ice. "What the hell are you doing here?" Lucas. Of course. Lucas Sterling, Alexander's identical twin brother. Olivia had heard rumors about him, the prodigal son who'd left Sterling Enterprises years ago to travel the world and pursue some vague artistic dreams. She'd never seen a photo, never thought she'd meet him, and certainly never imagined she'd mistake him for her boss and kiss him in front of half the company. "I came home for the holidays, brother dear," Lucas said cheerfully. "Dad insisted. Thought I'd check out the legendary Sterling Enterprises holiday party. You've really outdone yourself with the champagne fountain." Olivia wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Sterling. I thought—" She couldn't even finish the sentence. What was she supposed to say? "I thought he was you, so I kissed him?" That was somehow worse. Alexander's jaw worked. He looked between Olivia and Lucas, his expression unreadable. "My office. Both of you. Now." "Alex, come on, it's a party," Lucas started. "Now." Alexander turned on his heel and strode toward the exit. The crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. Lucas offered Olivia his arm, his grin never faltering. "Well, this should be fun. Shall we?" Olivia ignored his arm and followed Alexander on shaky legs. Behind her, she could hear the whispers starting, the speculation spreading like wildfire through the ballroom. By Monday, everyone would know. The analyst who'd kissed the CEO's twin brother. No, who'd kissed the wrong twin. She might as well start packing her desk now. They took a private elevator to the executive floor. The silence was suffocating. Alexander stared straight ahead, his hands clasped behind his back, every inch the intimidating CEO. Lucas leaned against the elevator wall, completely at ease, occasionally glancing at Olivia with amusement dancing in his eyes. When they reached Alexander's office, he held the door open, his face still carved from stone. Olivia walked in first, her heels sinking into the plush carpet. Lucas followed, dropping casually into one of the leather chairs. Alexander closed the door with precise control and turned to face them. "Explain," he said to Lucas. Just that one word, but it carried the weight of years of complicated family history. Lucas shrugged. "I saw a beautiful woman standing alone, looking like she wanted to be anywhere else. I asked her to dance. We danced. There may have been a kiss. It happens at parties, Alex. You knew she worked for me." "I had a hunch when she called me Mr. Sterling, yes." Lucas's grin was unrepentant. "But she didn't know who I was. And technically, I'm also a Sterling, so she wasn't wrong." Alexander's eyes cut to Olivia. "Did you know?" "No!" The word burst out of her. "I swear, I had no idea you had a twin, or that he'd be here, or—" She stopped, realizing she was babbling. "I thought he was you." Something flickered across Alexander's face. You thought I asked you to dance." "Yes," Olivia said quietly. Her cheeks were on fire. This was the most humiliating moment of her professional life. "And you kissed him," Alexander continued, his voice carefully neutral. "Because you thought he was me." The room felt too small, too hot. Olivia couldn't read his expression. Was he angry? Disappointed? Hurt? "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling. It was completely inappropriate. And I understand if you want my resignation." "Whoa, hold on," Lucas interrupted, sitting up straighter. "Nobody's resigning over a kiss." "Alex, you're not seriously going to fire her for this?" "Stay out of it, Lucas," Alexander said without looking at his brother. His eyes remained fixed on Olivia. "You thought it was me, and you kissed me anyway, knowing I'm your boss, knowing the complications." Olivia swallowed hard. "Yes." The silence stretched between them, taut as a wire. Alexander's jaw worked, his hands curling into fists at his sides. Finally, he turned away, moving to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the glittering city. "Get out. Both of you." "Alex," Lucas began. "I said get out." His voice was quiet, but it sliced through the room like a knife. Lucas stood, shooting Olivia an apologetic glance. She followed him to the door, her legs feeling like lead. Just before she stepped into the hallway, she glanced back. Alexander stood silhouetted against the window, his shoulders rigid, and Olivia felt something crack in her chest. The elevator ride down was torture. Lucas kept trying to catch her eye, but Olivia stared resolutely at the floor numbers ticking down. When they finally reached the lobby, she practically bolted for the exit. "Olivia, wait!" Lucas caught up with her on the sidewalk outside. "I really am sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble." She rounded on him, all her fear and embarrassment transforming into anger. "You didn't mean to? You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew I thought you were him, and you let me make a complete fool of myself." Lucas held up his hands in surrender. "You're right. It was a dick move. He paused, running a hand through his hair, and for the first time, his easy confidence faltered. "I saw the way you looked at him earlier, across the room, and I wondered what it would be like to have someone look at me like that, like I mattered." Olivia's anger deflated slightly. "That doesn't make it okay." "I know." Lucas's voice was sincere now, the playful mask slipping. "Let me make it up to you. Dinner tomorrow night. I'll explain everything about me and Alex, and maybe you'll understand why I'm such an idiot." "I don't think that's a good idea," Olivia said, even as part of her was curious. What was the story between the Sterling twins? Why had Lucas left? And why did Alexander look so devastated when he'd seen them together? "Please," Lucas said. "I promise. No tricks this time. Just conversation between two people who both care about the same impossible man." Olivia hesitated. She should say no. She should go home, update her resume, and start looking for a new job before Alexander fired her on Monday. But instead, she heard herself say, "One dinner." That's it. Lucas's face broke into that devastating smile, the one that was so like Alexander's, but somehow entirely different. 7 o'clock. I'll text you the address. He paused. "How do I have your number?" "I don't have your number." Despite everything, Olivia almost laughed. She rattled off her number. Lucas saved it in his phone, and then she was climbing into a cab, watching the Sterling Grand Hotel disappear behind her. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. She replayed every moment, trying to understand where it had all gone wrong. The dance had been perfect. Lucas had been charming, attentive, everything she'd secretly hoped Alexander might be outside the office. And that kiss, Olivia touched her lips, remembering. It had felt real. More than real. It had felt like something she'd been waiting for without knowing it. But it hadn't been Alexander. It had been his twin, a stranger wearing his brother's face, and the look in Alexander's eyes when he'd seen them, that flash of something broken and raw, kept replaying in Olivia's mind like a loop she couldn't escape. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Mizuki's, 7 p.m. Wear something comfortable. This isn't about impressing anyone. Olivia stared at the message, then typed back, "Fine. But you're paying." His response was immediate. Wouldn't dream of doing anything else. And Olivia, for what it's worth, Alex is an idiot if he doesn't see what's right in front of him. She didn't reply. Instead, she turned off her phone and buried her face in her pillow. Tomorrow, she would deal with Lucas. Monday, she would deal with Alexander. Tonight, she would just try to forget the feeling of being kissed by someone who looked like the man she was falling for, but wasn't. Saturday arrived gray and drizzly, matching Olivia's mood perfectly. She spent the day trying to distract herself with chores, but her mind kept drifting back to the party. By 6 o'clock, she was standing in front of her closet again, this time pulling out jeans and a soft green sweater. Comfortable, like Lucas had said. This wasn't a date. It was an explanation. Maybe an apology. Nothing more. Mizuki's turned out to be a small Japanese restaurant tucked away on a quiet street. The kind of place where locals went, not tourists. Warm wood panels, paper lanterns, and the rich smell of miso and grilled fish. Lucas was already there, sitting at a corner table, dressed in jeans and a navy button-down that made his eyes look impossibly gray. "You came," he said, standing as she approached. "You promised answers," Olivia replied, sliding into the seat across from him. "And you'll get them." Lucas signaled the waiter. "But first, sake. Trust me, this story is better with alcohol." 2 ceramic cups of warm sake arrived, and Lucas raised his in a toast. To honest conversations and terrible first impressions. Olivia clinked her cup against his. The sake was smooth, warming her from the inside. "So." "Talk," Lucas leaned back, his expression turning serious. "Alexander and I are identical twins, obviously. Born 3 minutes apart. Me first, which I never let him forget. Growing up, we were inseparable, partners in crime. We even had our own language when we were kids." "What changed?" Olivia asked quietly. "Our father." Lucas's jaw tightened. Richard Sterling built his empire from nothing, and he had very specific ideas about legacy, about what his sons should be. Alexander was the perfect heir, brilliant, disciplined, driven. He became everything Dad wanted. "Me?" He shrugged. "I wanted to paint. I wanted to travel. I wanted to figure out who I was outside of the Sterling name. Dad called it a phase. Alex called it selfish." "So you left," Olivia said. "So I left," Lucas confirmed. 6 years ago, right after Dad announced Alex would take over the company. I couldn't watch my brother turn into a machine. Couldn't stand the way he was killing every part of himself that didn't fit into Dad's perfect mold. So I ran. Spent a year in Europe, 2 years in Asia, another year bouncing around South America. I painted. I lived. I became someone other than the disappointment son. And now you're back. Now I'm back, Lucas said. Because Dad's retiring. Really retiring this time. And Mom begged me to come home for the holidays. She thinks Alex and I can fix whatever broke between us. I think she's an optimist. The food arrived. Small plates of sashimi and tempura, edamame, and delicate rolls. They ate in silence for a moment, and Olivia processed everything Lucas had told her. It explained so much about Alexander. The coldness, the distance, the way he seemed to hold himself apart from everyone and everything. "Why did you pretend to be him last night?" Olivia asked finally. "You could have just introduced yourself." Lucas met her eyes. "Because when you looked at me, Thinking I was Alex, your whole face lit up. And I saw what my brother's been too blind or too stubborn to see. Someone actually cares about him, the real him, not just the CEO. I wanted to know what that felt like, just for a minute. "That's not fair," Olivia said, but her voice lacked heat. "I know. I'm selfish. It's one of my many flaws." Lucas reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers, but not quite touching. "But here's the thing, Olivia. My brother felt something when he saw us kiss. I know him. I know that look. He spent 6 years building walls so high nobody could scale them, and you shook the foundation with one kiss that wasn't even meant for you." Olivia pulled her hand back, her heart hammering. "He's my boss. Even if he felt something, which I doubt, there's nothing that can happen between us. It's completely inappropriate." "So was kissing his twin brother at a company party," Lucas pointed out with a grin. "But you did it anyway." She glared at him, but couldn't quite suppress the smile tugging at her lips. "You're impossible." "It's part of my charm." Lucas's expression softened. "Look, I know I messed up last night. But maybe I gave you something too. Maybe now, you know Alex isn't as indifferent as he pretends to be. What you do with that information is up to you." They finished dinner with lighter conversation. Lucas told stories about his travels, about painting sunrises in Kyoto and teaching English to kids in Peru. Olivia found herself laughing, genuinely laughing, for the first time since the party. Lucas was easy to be with in a way Alexander never was. There was no pressure, no weight of expectations, just two people sharing a meal and swapping stories. When they stepped outside, the drizzle had turned into proper rain. Lucas immediately shrugged off his jacket and held it over both their heads. "Come on, my car's around the corner." They ran together, splashing through puddles like children, and by the time they reached his car, they were both breathless and grinning. Lucas opened the passenger door for her, ever the gentleman. "Where to?" Olivia rattled off her address, and Lucas pulled into traffic. The rain drummed against the windshield, the wipers keeping steady rhythm. The heater blasted warm air, and Olivia felt herself relaxing into the leather seat. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For dinner. For the explanation. For not being completely terrible despite that disastrous first impression." Lucas glanced at her, his profile illuminated by passing streetlights. "You're welcome. And Olivia? For what it's worth, my brother's the lucky one. Not me." When they pulled up in front of her building, Lucas walked her to the door, his jacket still held over her head. At the entrance, Olivia turned to thank him again, and found him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I need to tell you something," Lucas said, "and you're probably going to hate me for it." Olivia's stomach tightened. "What?" "I'm not leaving town. Dad wants me to take a position at Sterling Enterprises, Vice President of Creative Development, whatever that means, which means I'll be around. A lot. And He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I really enjoyed tonight. More than I expected to. Lucas, I know what you're going to say. You have feelings for Alex. You work with Alex. But here's the thing." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Alex is my brother, and I love him. But he's broken in ways I don't know if he can fix. And He broke off, shaking his head. "You're incredible, smart and funny and kind, and you see through all the sterling bullshit to the person underneath. That's rare." Olivia's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, I know you kissed me thinking I was him. But maybe, if you got to know me, really know me, you might find I'm worth kissing for my own sake." Lucas smiled, but there was vulnerability in his eyes. "I'm not trying to compete with my brother. I want a chance, that's all." Before Olivia could respond, Her phone buzzed in her purse. She pulled it out, grateful for the interruption, and her heart stopped. A text from Alexander Sterling. My office. Monday, 8 a.m. We need to talk about your future at this company. The words blurred. Olivia read them twice, 3 times, each time feeling the pit in her stomach grow deeper. He's going to fire me. Lucas read over her shoulder and swore softly. He's an idiot. No, he's right. I crossed a line. I kissed someone I thought was him at a company party in front of everyone. That's grounds for termination. Olivia's voice shook. She'd worked so hard to build her career, and one stupid mistake was going to destroy everything. Hey. Lucas caught her chin gently, turning her face toward his. You're not getting fired. Alex might be emotionally constipated, but he's not stupid. You're the best analyst he has. He's just hurt and confused, and doesn't know how to deal with feelings like a normal human being. You don't know that, Olivia whispered. I know my brother. Lucas's thumb brushed her cheek. And I know he'd be insane to let you go. He stepped back, putting proper distance between them. Get some sleep. Monday's going to be intense, but you'll survive it. And if you don't? His grin returned, cocky and confident. There's always that vice president of creative development. I could use an assistant who knows her way around a spreadsheet. Despite everything, Olivia laughed. Good night, Lucas. Good night, Olivia. He waited until she was safely inside before jogging back to his car, disappearing into the rain-soaked night. Olivia climbed the stairs to her apartment in a daze. Her mind spun with everything that had happened. 2 days ago, her life was simple. Complicated feelings for her boss, sure, but manageable. Now she'd kissed his identical twin, possibly destroyed her career, and somehow acquired a second Sterling brother who seemed genuinely interested in her. She changed into pajamas and curled up on her couch with a cup of tea, staring at Alexander's text. We need to talk about your future at this company. The words felt ominous, final. Maybe she should just resign before Monday, save herself the humiliation of being fired. She could claim family emergency, relocate to another city, start over. But the thought of never seeing Alexander again made her chest ache in a way that was wholly unreasonable. When had she let herself care this much? When had he become more than just the demanding boss whose approval she craved professionally? Sunday crawled by at an agonizing pace. Olivia tried to distract herself with laundry, cleaning, a long walk through the park, but nothing worked. Her phone stayed silent. No more texts from Alexander. Nothing from Lucas either, though she caught herself checking more often than she wanted to admit. By Sunday night, Olivia had written and deleted 3 resignation letters. She'd rehearsed what she'd say to Alexander at least a dozen times. None of it felt right. Finally, exhausted and emotionally wrung out, she set her alarm for 6 a.m. and forced herself to sleep. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. Olivia dressed with care, choosing her most professional suit, a charcoal gray that made her look older, more serious. She braided her hair into a neat plait and applied minimal makeup. If this was the end of her time at Sterling Enterprises, she'd face it with dignity. The office was quiet when she arrived at 7:30. Most people didn't show up until 9, but Olivia couldn't stand waiting at home any longer. She made herself a cappuccino in the break room, the routine familiar and soothing. Then she settled at her desk and tried to focus on work. The numbers swam in front of her eyes. At exactly 8 a.m., her phone buzzed. He's ready for you. Jennifer, Alexander's assistant. Olivia stood on shaky legs. The walk to Alexander's office felt endless. Jennifer gave her a sympathetic smile as she passed. Good luck. Great. Even his assistant knew Olivia was about to be fired. She knocked on the glass door, heard Alexander's clipped, "Come in," and stepped into what felt like her own execution. Alexander sat behind his massive desk, perfectly composed in a charcoal suit that matched hers. His steel gray eyes tracked her as she crossed the room. "Sit." Olivia sat, her hands twisted in her lap, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. If he was going to fire her, she wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her cry. "I'm not going to fire you," Alexander said, as if reading her mind. Olivia blinked. "You're not?" "No." He stood, moving to the window with his hands clasped behind his back. The morning light outlined his profile, sharp and severe. "What happened Friday night was—" He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "Complicated. But it would be unprofessional to terminate your employment over a personal matter." Relief flooded through Olivia, so intense she felt dizzy. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling." "However," Alexander continued, and her stomach sank again, "we need to establish boundaries. Clear ones. What happened cannot happen again." "Of course," Olivia said quickly. "It won't. I promise." Alexander turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "You thought Lucas was me." It wasn't a question, but Olivia answered anyway. "Yes." "And you kissed him, knowing the complications." The professional risks. His voice was carefully neutral, but something burned in his eyes. "Why?" The question hung in the air between them. Olivia's mouth went dry. She could lie, deflect, make some excuse about the champagne or the romantic atmosphere. But Alexander's eyes pinned her in place, demanding honesty. "Because I wanted to," she said quietly. "Because for one moment, I thought you saw me as something other than just a competent analyst. And I've wanted—" She stopped, the words catching in her throat. "It doesn't matter what I've wanted. You're my boss. Nothing can happen between us." Alexander was silent for a long moment. His jaw worked, muscles tightening and releasing. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "You're right. Nothing can happen. Which is why I'm implementing a new protocol. All future interactions between us will be strictly professional. No more late-night work sessions alone in my office. No more coffee runs. No more—" He broke off, turning back to the window. "No more blurred lines." Each word felt like a door slamming shut. Olivia swallowed hard. "I understand." "Good." Alexander straightened his shoulders, and when he looked at her again, his expression had smoothed into that familiar mask of cold control. "The Whitmore deal is moving forward. I need your projections by end of day Wednesday. You'll report directly to Marcus from now on instead of me." Marcus, the senior vice president who made her skin crawl with his wandering eyes and inappropriate comments. Olivia had spent 2 years avoiding being assigned to his team. "Mr. Sterling." "That's all, Bennett." The dismissal was clear. Olivia stood, her legs unsteady, and made it halfway to the door before Alexander spoke again. "For what it's worth, I never thought of you as just a competent analyst." Olivia froze. She turned back, but Alexander had already returned to his desk, his attention fixed on his computer screen, as if she'd already disappeared. After a moment, she let herself out, closing the door softly behind her. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Olivia threw herself into work, trying to ignore the hollow ache in her chest. Her colleagues whispered when she passed, speculation running wild about what had happened at the party. Jessica cornered her in the break room, eyes wide with curiosity. "Oh my God, Olivia, everyone's saying you kissed Alexander Sterling. Is it true? Are you two dating?" "I kissed his twin brother," Olivia said flatly. "By accident. And no, we're not dating. We're never dating. Can we please just drop it?" Jessica's face fell. "Oh, sorry, I just thought, everyone thought wrong." Olivia grabbed her coffee and escaped back to her desk. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. Survived the execution? Against her better judgment, Olivia smiled. Barely. He reassigned me to Marcus. Lucas's response was immediate. That's cold even for Alex. Dinner tonight? You can tell me all about it. Olivia stared at the message. She should say, no. Getting involved with Lucas, even as friends, would only complicate things further. But the thought of going home to her empty apartment, replaying every devastating moment with Alexander, was unbearable. Fine, but somewhere quiet. I can't handle people today. Deal. I'll pick you up at 7. And Olivia? Hang in there. The afternoon crawled by. Olivia met with Marcus about the Whitmore deal, enduring his too close proximity and lingering handshake. She missed Alexander's sharp questions, his impatient efficiency, the way he pushed her to be better. Marcus just wanted her to make him look good. At 6 o'clock, she packed up her things and headed out. In the elevator, she caught her reflection in the polished walls. She looked tired, her eyes shadowed. The woman staring back didn't look like someone who'd kissed not one, but 2 Sterling brothers in the span of 72 hours. She looked like someone who'd lost something important. Lucas picked her up right on time, this time in a beat-up Jeep instead of the sleek sedan from Saturday. Thought we'd go somewhere different, he explained. Hope you don't mind a bit of a drive. Olivia climbed in, grateful for the change of scenery. Lucas drove them out of the city, taking winding roads that led up into the hills. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. After about 30 minutes, he pulled into a gravel parking lot overlooking the valley below. The city sprawled out beneath them, lights beginning to twinkle as dusk deepened. I used to come here when I was a kid, Lucas said, cutting the engine. Whenever Alex and I needed to escape Dad's expectations. We'd pack sandwiches and sit up here for hours, planning all the ways we'd run the company differently someday. His smile was bittersweet. Guess only one of us followed through on that plan. Olivia looked out at the view. It was breathtaking, the kind of place that made you feel small in a good way. It's beautiful. Come on. Lucas hopped out and went to the back of the Jeep, pulling out a blanket and a basket. Can't have a proper dinner without a proper picnic. They spread the blanket on a flat outcropping of rock, the city lights spreading below them like a galaxy. Lucas unpacked sandwiches from a local deli, potato chips, chocolate chip cookies, and 2 bottles of beer. Nothing fancy, he said, but sometimes simple is better. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds the breeze rustling through the trees and the distant hum of traffic below. Olivia felt some of the tension drain from her shoulders. Up here, Sterling Enterprises and all its complications seemed very far away. He moved me to Marcus's team, Olivia said finally. Said we needed better boundaries. Lucas grimaced. Marcus is a creep. Everyone knows it. Alex must be really rattled if he thinks that's a good solution. He said nothing can happen between us because I'm his employee. Olivia picked at her sandwich. He's right. Even if he felt something, which I don't think he does, it would be inappropriate. Career suicide for both of us. That's corporate handbook talking, Lucas said. Not heart talking. Sometimes the handbook is there for good reasons. Olivia took a long pull of her beer. I worked hard to get where I am. I'm not going to throw it away for some fantasy about my emotionally unavailable boss. Lucas studied her. Is it really a fantasy? Or did something feel real on Friday night, even if it was with the wrong brother? Olivia met his eyes. In the fading light, they were more gray than steel, warm instead of cold. What are you asking me, Lucas? I'm asking if you'd be willing to give me a chance, he said simply. Not as Alex's substitute. As myself. I know the timing's terrible, and the situation's weird, and I'm probably the last person you want to deal with right now. But I like you, Olivia. I liked you before I knew you had feelings for my brother. And I think, maybe, If you got to know me without comparing me to him, you might like me too. Olivia's breath caught. This was insane. She'd just been reassigned because of a kiss with Lucas, and here he was, asking for more. You realize this is the worst possible idea. Historically, I specialize in bad ideas, Lucas admitted with a grin, but some of them turn out pretty well. I spent 6 years traveling the world on a bad idea, and it made me who I am. His expression turned serious. I'm not asking you to fall in love with me tomorrow. I'm just asking for a chance to show you who I am. Real dates, real conversations. See what happens. And your brother? Hasn't told you how he feels, has he? Lucas's voice gentled. He's had 2 years to make a move, Olivia. 2 years to see what was right in front of him. Instead, he built walls and pretended you were just another employee. I'm not saying he doesn't care. I think he cares more than he knows how to handle. But caring and acting on it are 2 different things. Olivia turned back to the view, her mind spinning. Everything Lucas said made sense, but her heart was still tangled up in Alexander's cold dismissal this morning, the way he'd looked when he found them kissing. That flash of devastation before the mask came down. I need time, she said finally, to think. To figure out what I want without both of you pulling me in different directions. Take all the time you need, Lucas said. I'll be here. And Olivia? He waited until she'd looked at him. Thank you for not shutting me down immediately. That's more than I probably deserve. They finished their picnic as stars began to appear overhead. Lucas told more stories about his travels, about failed paintings and successful ones, about learning to surf in Australia and getting food poisoning in Thailand. Olivia found herself laughing again, the sound feeling foreign after the heaviness of the day. On the drive back, Lucas kept the radio low, classic rock drifting through the speakers. Olivia's head rested against the window, exhaustion finally catching up with her. She must have dozed off, because the next thing she knew, Lucas was gently shaking her shoulder. We're here, Sleeping Beauty. Olivia blinked awake, disoriented. They were parked in front of her building. Sorry, I didn't mean to fall asleep. Don't be. You needed it. Lucas walked her to the door again, hands in his pockets. Get some rest. And Olivia? Whatever you decide about me, about Alex, about all of this, I hope you know you deserve someone who sees how incredible you are. Don't settle for less. He pressed a quick kiss to her forehead, friendly and sweet. And then he was jogging back to his Jeep, leaving Olivia standing in the doorway with her thoughts in chaos. The next 2 weeks were torture. Olivia threw herself into work, determined to prove her value despite being reassigned to Marcus's team. She arrived early, stayed late, and produced reports that were nothing short of exceptional. Marcus took credit for most of them, but Olivia didn't care. She just needed to keep busy, keep her mind occupied, keep herself from thinking about Alexander. It didn't work. She saw him in the hallways, in meetings, across the office floor. Every time their eyes met, something electric passed between them, there and gone in an instant. He never stopped to talk to her, never called her into his office. It was as if that conversation on Monday had been their last real interaction. And now they were strangers who happened to work in the same building. Lucas, meanwhile, started at Sterling Enterprises the following Monday. He made quite an entrance, breezing into the office in jeans and a blazer, completely ignoring the corporate dress code. Within days, he'd charmed half the staff, started 3 new creative initiatives, and somehow convinced the notoriously rigid HR department to approve a company-wide Creativity Friday, where employees could pitch wild ideas without fear of judgment. He also made it a point to stop by Olivia's desk every morning with coffee. Just coffee, nothing more. They'd chat for a few minutes about work, about nothing, about everything except the elephant in the room. Slowly, Olivia found herself looking forward to those morning visits. Lucas was easy company, demanding nothing, offering everything freely. "You're glowing," Jessica observed one Thursday afternoon, appearing at Olivia's cubicle with a knowing smile. "Is it the coffee runs from the hot new VP, or is there something you're not telling us?" "There's nothing to tell," Olivia said, but she couldn't quite keep the smile off her face. "Uh-huh. Sure." Jessica perched on the edge of Olivia's desk. "For what it's worth, everyone thinks you two are adorable together. Much better than the rumors about you and Mr. Sterling." Olivia's smile faded. "What rumors?" Jessica's eyes widened. "Oh, I thought you knew. People are saying you and Alexander had a thing, that he ended it, and that's why you kissed Lucas at the party. Like revenge or something." Heat flooded Olivia's cheeks. "That's not... There was no thing." "I know that," Jessica said quickly. "But you know how people talk. Especially after he reassigned you so abruptly. It looks suspicious." After Jessica left, Olivia sat staring at her computer screen, not seeing the numbers. Rumors. Of course there were rumors. This was a corporation. Gossip was currency. But the thought of people speculating about her and Alexander, twisting their non-relationship into some tawdry office affair, made her stomach turn. That evening, Lucas invited her to an art gallery opening. "One of my painter friends," he explained. "It'll be boring speeches and pretentious wine, but the art's actually good. Plus, you look like you could use a night out." Olivia almost said no. Going out with Lucas in public felt like crossing another line, making a statement she wasn't sure she was ready to make. But her apartment was lonely, and Lucas's easy grin was hard to resist. "Fine. But I'm not staying past 9. The gallery was in a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and track lighting. Lucas's friend turned out to be a tiny woman with paint-stained fingers and a laugh that filled the entire space. Her paintings were bold, abstract, explosions of color that demanded attention. "What do you think?" Lucas appeared at Olivia's elbow, holding 2 glasses of wine. "I think I don't understand art," Olivia admitted. "But I know what I like, and these are..." She searched for the word. "Alive. They feel alive." Lucas's smile was warm. "That's a better critique than most professionals give. Maya will love you." They wandered through the gallery, Lucas explaining techniques and influences in a way that made sense even to Olivia's analytical brain. She found herself relaxing, enjoying the evening, enjoying his company. When they stepped outside for air, the night was cool and clear, stars visible despite the city lights. "Can I ask you something?" Olivia said, leaning against the brick wall. "Anything. Why did you really come back? And don't give me the line about your mom begging you. There's more to it." Lucas was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "You're right. Mom was part of it, but mostly..." He paused. "I came back because I was tired of running. I built a life I loved, but it was a life alone. I painted. I traveled. I had adventures. But at the end of the day, I was still just me in a hotel room, missing my family. Missing my brother, even though we barely spoke." He turned to face her. "I came back because I wanted to see if we could fix what broke. And because I heard Dad say Alex was working himself into the ground, that he had no life outside the office, that he was becoming..." He stopped. "Becoming what?" Olivia prompted. "Becoming our father," Lucas said quietly. "Cold, distant, married to the company instead of a person. I came back to save him, I guess. Stupid, right? You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved." Olivia's chest tightened. She thought about Alexander, about the walls he'd built, the way he held himself apart from everyone. Maybe he doesn't know he needs saving. "Maybe," Lucas agreed. "Or maybe he knows, and he's too proud to ask for help. He pushed off the wall, offering his hand. Come on. Let's go back inside before Maya accuses me of abandoning her big night. They stayed until nearly 10, long past Olivia's planned departure time. Lucas introduced her to a dozen people, artists and collectors, and random friends who all seemed to gravitate toward his easy warmth. Watching him work a room, Olivia realized how different he and Alexander really were, not just in temperament, but in the way they moved through the world. Lucas opened doors. Alexander fortified them. When Lucas dropped her home that night, Olivia found herself hesitating before getting out of the Jeep. Thank you. For tonight. For coffee every morning. For, she struggled to put it into words, for being patient with me. You're worth being patient for, Lucas said simply. Then, before she could overthink it, he leaned across the console and kissed her cheek. Good night, Olivia. Her cheek burned where his lips had touched. Good night. Inside her apartment, Olivia pressed her hand to her face, feeling the ghost of that kiss. It was nothing like the kiss at the party, nothing heated or desperate, just sweet, gentle. A promise of something that could be if she let it. Her phone buzzed. For a wild second, she thought it might be Alexander, some acknowledgement that he knew she'd been out with Lucas. But it was just an email notification, a new project assignment from Marcus. She opened it, scanned the details, and frowned. The Whitmore deal. But she'd already completed her analysis. Why was Marcus asking her to redo it? She pulled up her original report, comparing it to Marcus's requests. Slowly, understanding dawned. He was asking her to change the numbers, to make the risk assessment look more favorable. Not by much, just enough to push the deal through despite the red flags she'd identified. Olivia's hands clenched into fists. This was fraud. Subtle, deniable, but fraud nonetheless. And Marcus was asking her to be complicit in it. She spent the night staring at her ceiling, weighing her options. If she refused, Marcus could make her life hell. If she reported him, she'd be labeled a troublemaker, possibly fired. If she complied, she'd compromise every professional standard she held. But if she went to Alexander... No, she couldn't go to Alexander. He'd made it clear they were to have no direct interaction. And after everything that had happened between them, he might not even believe her. He might think she was making trouble, trying to get reassigned back to his team. By dawn, Olivia had made her decision. She composed a careful email to Marcus, explaining why she couldn't make the requested changes, citing professional ethics and SEC regulations. She copied HR, keeping everything documented. Then, before she could lose her nerve, she hit send. The response came within an hour. A terse message from Marcus. See me in my office immediately. Olivia's stomach churned, but she squared her shoulders and made the walk. Marcus's office was smaller than Alexander's, windowless and cramped. He sat behind his desk, his expression thunderous. You want to explain this email? He demanded. The analysis I provided was accurate, Olivia said, keeping her voice steady. Altering it would be unethical and possibly illegal. You're questioning my judgment? Marcus stood, looming over his desk. I'm the VP, Bennett. You're a consultant. You do what I tell you to do. Not if it compromises professional standards. Marcus's face reddened. You think you're so smart, don't you? Teacher's pet when you worked for Sterling? Let me tell you something. Alex isn't here to protect you anymore. Cross me, and I'll make sure you never work in this industry again. Is that a threat? Olivia's voice came out calmer than she felt. It's a promise. Marcus moved around his desk, invading her space. You have until end of day to revise that report. Otherwise, consider yourself terminated for insubordination. Olivia didn't flinch. Then I guess you'll need to start termination paperwork, because I'm not changing my analysis. She walked out before he could respond, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Back at her desk, she gathered her personal items, hands shaking. This was it. She was going to lose her job, her career, everything she'd worked for, because she'd refused to commit fraud for a man who thought power meant he could do whatever he wanted. Her phone rang. Lucas. Olivia, are you okay? I just heard Marcus screaming about you to someone in the break room. I'm fine, she lied. Just a disagreement about a project. That didn't sound like a disagreement. That sounded like a threat. Lucas's voice was tight. Where are you? At my desk. Lucas, it's fine. Stay there. I'm coming to you. He appeared within minutes, his expression dark. Tell me what happened. Olivia glanced around. People were staring, whispering. This was turning into another spectacle. Not here. Lucas grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the elevators. They rode up to the executive floor in tense silence. But instead of going to his office, Lucas made a beeline for Alexander's. Lucas, no! Olivia tried to pull back, but he was already pushing open the door. Alexander looked up, surprise flickering across his face. What's going on? Your VP of mediocrity just threatened to fire Olivia for refusing to commit fraud, Lucas said flatly. Thought you'd want to know before he destroys the best analyst this company has. Alexander's expression went from surprise to ice-cold fury in a heartbeat. His eyes cut to Olivia. Is this true? Olivia's mouth went dry. Standing in his office again, facing those steel-gray eyes that saw too much, she felt every carefully constructed wall start to crumble. He asked me to alter a risk assessment to make the Whitmore deal look more favorable. I refused. He said if I didn't comply by end of day, I'd be terminated for insubordination. Alexander's jaw clenched. Without a word, he picked up his phone and pressed a button. Jennifer, get Marcus up here now, and have legal standing by. He hung up and stood, his full attention on Olivia. Did you document everything? Yes. I copied HR on my refusal email. Good. Alexander moved around his desk, and Olivia realized he was positioning himself between her and the door. Protective. You should have come to me immediately. You said we weren't supposed to interact directly, Olivia said quietly. Something flickered in Alexander's expression, there and gone. Not when it involves potential fraud. That supersedes everything else. He glanced at Lucas. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Lucas shrugged. Don't thank me. Thank Olivia for having more integrity than sense. 5 minutes later, Marcus stormed in, his face still flushed with anger. You wanted to see me? Then he saw Olivia and Lucas, and his expression turned wary. What's this about? Alexander's voice could have frozen steel. You're suspended, effective immediately, pending an investigation into allegations of requesting fraudulent financial reporting. Legal will contact you about the formal inquiry. Marcus's face went from red to white. What? You're taking her word over mine. She's just a bitter employee with a grudge, because you reassigned her. I'm taking documented evidence over your denials, Alexander cut him off. The email she sent you, which you failed to refute or deny, clearly outlines your request to alter risk assessments. That's not only unethical, it's potentially criminal. Now get out of my office before I have security escort you out of the building. Marcus looked between them, his mouth working. For a moment, Olivia thought he might argue further. Then he turned and stalked out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the glass. Silence fell. Alexander returned to his desk, suddenly looking exhausted. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Olivia, I owe you an apology. I should never have reassigned you to Marcus. I knew he was... He broke off, shaking his head. It was unprofessional, and it put you in danger. I'm sorry. Olivia's legs felt unsteady. Alexander Sterling didn't apologize. Ever. Thank you for believing me. I've worked with you for 2 years, Alexander said, meeting her eyes. You have more integrity in your little finger than Marcus has in his entire body. Of course I believe you. He paused. You're being reassigned back to my team, effective immediately, if you're comfortable with that. Yes, Olivia said, maybe too quickly. Yes, I am. Lucas cleared his throat. Well, now that the corporate drama is resolved, I should probably get back to pretending to work. Olivia. He offered his hand. Congratulations on not getting fired. She took his hand, grateful for the support, the steadiness. Thanks for having my back. Always, Lucas said, and squeezed gently before letting go. He left, closing the door quietly behind him. Alone with Alexander, the office suddenly felt too small. Olivia shifted her weight, unsure if she should leave or stay. Alexander was staring at his desk, his expression unreadable. He likes you, Alexander said finally. My brother. Olivia's breath caught. We're friends. Lucas doesn't do friends with women. Alexander's eyes lifted, pinning her in place. He dates them or he ignores them. There's no middle ground. Maybe I'm the exception, Olivia said, though her heart was hammering. Maybe. Alexander stood, moving to the window. The late afternoon sun caught in his dark hair, turning it almost bronze. He's good for you. Easy to be around. No complications. He makes you laugh. Alexander, I see the way you look at him now, Alexander continued, as if she hadn't spoken. The same way you used to look at me. Before he stopped, his hands curling into fists at his sides. Before I ruined everything by being exactly what I am, cold, controlled, impossible. You didn't ruin anything, Olivia said quietly. She moved closer, pulled by something she couldn't name. You set boundaries, professional ones. You were right to do it. Alexander laughed, a harsh sound. Was I? Because from where I'm standing, I pushed away the one person who saw past the CEO to the man underneath, and now my brother, who's always been better at being human than me, is offering you everything I was too afraid to even acknowledge I wanted. Olivia's heart stopped. What are you saying? Alexander turned to face her fully. The mask was gone, stripped away, leaving something raw and vulnerable in its place. I'm saying I lied when I said nothing could happen between us. I'm saying every time I see you with Lucas, laughing at his jokes, looking at him like he hung the moon, something inside me breaks a little more. I'm saying, his voice dropped to barely a whisper, I'm saying I think I've been falling for you since the day you told me my risk assessment on the Branson merger was fundamentally flawed, and walked me through why, line by line, until I had to admit you were right. Olivia couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Alexander Sterling, the Ice King of finance, was confessing feelings. For her. That was over a year ago. I know. He took a step closer. I've been an idiot for over a year, convinced myself what I felt was just professional respect, that the reason I looked forward to our late-night work sessions was because you challenged me intellectually, that the reason I made sure you had your favorite coffee was just good management practice. Another step. But then I saw you kiss Lucas, thinking he was me, and I realized you were willing to risk everything for one moment with the person you thought I was, and I'd been too much of a coward to even tell you I wanted the same thing. They were standing close now, close enough that Olivia could see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes, close enough to catch the scent of his cologne, coffee, and something uniquely him. I've been spending time with Lucas, she said, her voice unsteady. I know. He's asked me to give him a real chance, to see if something could develop between us. Alexander's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He's my brother. I want him to be happy. And if being with you makes him happy, then... He broke off, looking away, then I'll learn to live with it." "You're giving up," Olivia said, and she couldn't keep the disappointment from her voice. "I'm giving you a choice," Alexander corrected. "Lucas or me. Easy or hard. Simple or complicated. But I'm not going to fight my brother for you like you're some prize to be won. You deserve better than that. You deserve someone who tells you how they feel honestly, who doesn't hide behind corporate protocols and professional distance. You deserve—" He reached out, his hand hovering near her cheek, but not quite touching. "You deserve everything, and I don't know if I can give you that." Olivia caught his hand, pressing it against her face. His palm was warm, calloused despite his executive position. "What if I don't want easy? What if I want you, complications and all?" Alexander's eyes darkened. "Then we'll have to be very, very careful. Company policy forbids relationships between supervisors and direct reports. If this, he seemed to struggle with the words. If we pursue this, one of us would have to transfer. Probably you, since I'm CEO and somewhat harder to move." "I don't care about that," Olivia said. "I care about you. About us. About whatever this could be if we're brave enough to try. And Lucas?" Olivia's chest tightened. Lucas, who'd been kind and patient and open with his feelings. Lucas, who'd made her laugh when she wanted to cry, who'd shown her art and sunsets and a version of life that didn't revolve around spreadsheets and risk assessments. "I need to talk to him. He deserves honesty." Alexander nodded slowly. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, a feather-light touch that made her shiver. "I don't deserve you, Olivia Bennett. But if you're willing to give me a chance, I swear I'll spend every day trying to become the man who does." Then he was kissing her, and it was nothing like the kiss with Lucas at the party. This was hungry, desperate, years of suppressed want finally breaking free. Olivia's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and Alexander's arms came around her, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alexander rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that for so long." "Me too," Olivia admitted. Her lips felt swollen, her entire body humming. "But Alexander—" "Lucas, I know." He stepped back, putting proper distance between them. "Talk to him tonight. Tell him the truth. Whatever happens after that, we'll figure it out together." Olivia nodded, even as her stomach twisted with guilt. She'd been spending weeks with Lucas, letting him believe something might develop between them. And now she had to tell him she was choosing his brother. The brother he'd left home to escape, the brother he'd come back to save. She left Alexander's office in a daze, her thoughts spinning. Back at her desk, she found a text from Lucas. "Heard you're back on Alex's team. Congratulations. Dinner tonight to celebrate?" Olivia stared at the message, her heart sinking. She typed back, "Yes, but we need to talk. Can you pick me up at 7? His response was immediate. "Uh-oh. That sounds ominous. Everything okay?" Number. "But it will be. I promise I'll explain tonight." The rest of the day crawled by. Olivia tried to work, but the numbers blurred together. All she could think about was Alexander's kiss, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious and breakable. And Lucas, kind Lucas, who was about to have his heart broken by the girl who was supposed to be different from all the others who'd hurt him. At 7 sharp, Lucas pulled up in his Jeep. Olivia climbed in, and his smile faded when he saw her expression. "Okay, now I'm worried. What's wrong?" "Drive," Olivia said quietly. "Just drive. I'll explain when we get there." Lucas drove them to the overlook, the same place they'd had their picnic. The sun was setting, the sky painted in purples and oranges. They sat on the hood of the Jeep, Olivia's hands twisted in her lap. "I need to tell you something," she began. and I need you to let me get through it before you react, okay? Lucas's expression turned serious. Okay. Olivia took a deep breath. Today, after the thing with Marcus, Alexander kissed me, and I kissed him back. And he told me he's had feelings for me for over a year, that he's been an idiot, that he wants to try if I'm willing to deal with all the complications. Silence. Lucas stared out at the view, his jaw working. Finally, he said, "And you want to try with him?" It wasn't a question, but Olivia answered anyway. "Yes. I'm sorry, Lucas. You've been incredible these past few weeks. Patient and kind, and everything I thought I wanted. But my heart," her voice cracked, "my heart still belongs to him. I don't know if that makes me an idiot too, but it's the truth." Lucas was quiet for a long moment. Then he slid off the hood and walked a few steps away, his back to her. Olivia's chest ached. She wanted to say something, anything to make this hurt less, but there were no words that could fix what she was breaking. "I knew," Lucas said finally. "I think I always knew. The way you looked at him, even when you were angry. The way you said his name, like it meant something." He turned back, and his eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I just hoped. I thought maybe if you got to know me, really know me, it might be enough. That I might be enough." "You are enough," Olivia said fiercely. "Lucas, you're wonderful. Any woman would be lucky to have you. But I can't. I can't give you what you deserve when my heart is somewhere else. That wouldn't be fair to either of us." Lucas laughed, rough and pained. "Fair? Right." He wiped his eyes roughly. "You know the worst part. I can't even be mad at him. He's my brother. I came back to save him from turning into Dad, and instead, I led him straight to the one person who could actually save him." He met her eyes. "Take care of him, okay? He acts like he's made of ice, but underneath, he's just Alex. My big brother, who used to be scared of thunderstorms and cried when our dog died. Don't let him push you away when things get hard. He will. It's what he does." Olivia slid off the hood and hugged him. Lucas held her tight for a moment, his face buried in her hair. Then he let go and stepped back. "I should take you home." The drive back was silent. When they pulled up in front of her building, Lucas finally spoke again. "For what it's worth, I hope you two are happy. Really, you deserve that. And maybe..." He paused. "Maybe someday I'll find someone who looks at me the way you look at him." "You will," Olivia promised, "and she'll be extraordinary." She climbed out of the Jeep, watching as Lucas drove away. Only when his tail lights disappeared did she let herself cry. What did you think of their story? Share your thoughts in the comments.